Welcome everyone to the 2026 edition of our annual summit, People Success and the Future of Work. It's fantastic to see. No sound? Okay, good. It's fantastic to see how many of you joining us today from all over the world. So please say hi in the chat and let us know that where you're joining from today. It's always fun to see how global our community is. This is actually the third time we're hosting this summit, and it's becoming a tradition that I truly look forward to every spring. This is the third. It's also the third time that I have the pleasure of opening the event by presenting key insights from the Eletive Executive Report, which we always publish annually. In this report, we gather perspectives from thousands of HR and people leaders to understand what challenges they're facing, what priorities they're focused on right now, and how the role of HR is evolving from year to year. So let's start this day by sharing some of the most important findings from this year's report before we move into the rest of the program for today. Before we dive into the findings, let me briefly explain the methodology behind this year's report. The Eletive Executive Survey 2026 is based on insights from more than 3,400 HR and people leaders across wide range of industries and different markets. And we have asked them to identify the most important strategic priorities they're expected to face in the coming year. One important thing to note is that many of these challenges overlap. Things like AI, retention, well-being, leadership, and inclusion are deeply interconnected. Because respondents could select multiple priorities, the total percentages you see in the report exceeds 100%. But that also tells an important story. What we're seeing is very clear is a shift of expectations for HR this year. HR is no longer just expected to support the organization, is increasingly expected to also drive measurable impact in the business as well. And the fact that leaders are navigating multiple complex priorities at the same time really highlights how central HR has become in shaping the future of work. So 10 key challenges based on the insights from this year's executive report. We have identified 10 key challenges that I represent today that HR and people leaders have said will define the year ahead. These challenges span from everything from AI and data-driven decision-making to leadership, retention, well-being, and building a resilient organization. So let's take a closer look on what HR leaders around the world are prioritizing right now. And the data is clear. From what we see in this year's data is that AI is moving from analysis to action. For years, organizations have focused on collecting data and generating insights, but now expectations are different. Leaders want real decisions, real interventions, and real impact. This means that HR in 2026 needs to be both intelligent and intentional, using data and technology, of course, purposely to understand what's happening in the organization, but also have the courage to act on it. So let's start with what is probably the most talked about topic in the world and in HR today, AI. For many years, HR has focused on collecting data and generating insights. But what we see now is a clear shift. Organizations want systems that don't just analyze, but also actually help to drive action. Agentic AI, predictive insights, and automated recommendations are moving HR from passive reporting to intelligent decision-making. The second topic is well-being. Well-being is no longer just a people initiative. It's increasingly recognized as a business performance driver. Organizations are realizing that stress, burnout, disengagement have very real impacts on productivity, retention, and culture. The challenge now is moving beyond isolated initiatives to continuously understand how people actually feel at work. Where there's data and ongoing employee feedback, and that is, of course, used and becomes incredibly important going forward. The third topic is employee retention. Retention continues to be one of the biggest concerns for organizations globally. Employees today have more choice, higher expectations, and greater mobility than ever before. What the data shows is that retention is rarely about one single factor. It's about the overall employee experience. So it's everything from leadership, development, culture, and purpose. The organizations that succeed here are the ones that continuously listen and respond to what their people need. Organizational culture. Culture has always mattered, but in a hybrid and AI-enabled workplace, it becomes even more critical. When teams are distributed and work is increasingly digital, culture is no longer reinforced by proximity. It has to be intentional built and maintained as well. This means that leaders need better visibility into how culture actually is experienced across the full organization. For example, many of our colleagues, of our customers, use Eletive to send out custom surveys around culture and company values. We track this over time, how well-being an organization is actually living those values, because otherwise those values can easily remain words on a slide or a poster on the wall, rather than something that truly shapes the everyday behavior. Measuring the impact of HR is number 5. One of the biggest shifts we see is the expectations for HR to demonstrate measurable business impact. Executives want to understand how people initiatives influence outcomes like performance, retention, and productivity. This means HR needs to move from reporting activities to showing clear cause and effect relationships between people, data, and business results. And we're seeing this shift very clear in practice. More and more people leaders are starting to combine their engagement data with metrics such as retention, sick leave, productivity, integrate these insights into company BI dashboards and leadership reporting. That's when people data becomes really powerful. It's not just an HR metric, but a part of the broader business intelligence, and also used to guide the full organization going forward. Number 6 is leadership development, and that is also evolving right now. The leaders organizations need tomorrow will operate in environments shaped by AI, rapid change, and new workforce expectations. And this requires a shift from traditional leadership training towards more data-driven and personalized leadership development. Many organizations are therefore increasingly using, for example, 360-degree feedback to gain organizational-wide insights and help leaders to understand how their relationships is actually experienced by their teams. We're also seeing a growing interest in AI-powered coaching tools inside platforms. We also have that in Eletive, which can help leaders reflect on feedback, identify development areas, and continuously improve the leadership in a more scalable way. Because leadership development should not be a course that you attend once a year, it should be a continuous process embedded in the everyday work. Performance management is another area undergoing significant change. Many organizations are moving away from traditional annual reviews towards more continuous feedback and ongoing development conversations. The goal is to create a system where performance discussions become a natural part of the everyday work, rather than something that only happens once a year. That's why practices like regular one-on-one conversation, clear OKRs, continuous feedback loops are becoming more increasingly important. This is also an area where we focus heavily on developing on Eletive, of course, helping organizations move towards more modern continuous performance in practice that supports both growth and engagement. Employer branding, number 8. So with social media and platforms like Glassdoor, for example, employee experience are more visible than ever. And negative experiences are rarely stay private. This means employer branding is no longer just about how organizations present themselves externally. It's also about whether the employee experience actually matches that promise. The most successful organizations therefore ensure that what they communicate to candidates truly affect the reality of working there as well. Employee lifecycle management. Another important focus area for people leaders this year is managing the entire employee lifecycle in a more intentional way. From onboarding to development and growth, organizations need to create a cohesive experience that supports engagement over time. Rather than just an isolated HR process, the focus increasingly is designed on the full connected employee journey. And finally, one of the most interesting trends we're seeing in the growing focus of self-leadership. Modern organizations increasingly expect employees to take greater ownership of their own development, performance, and engagement. But for that to happen, people need transparency, feedback, and the right tools to activate and shape their own success at work. Creating a workplace is a shared responsibility across the entire organization. And that means employees themselves need to feel empowered to take ownership and accountability for their own employee experience, while leaders and HR provide environment and support that makes that possible. So, when we take a step back and look at these 10 challenges together, a clear picture emerges. HR today is expected to do more than ever before. Connecting culture, leadership, data, well-being, and performance across the entire organization. And the reality is that none of these challenges can be solved in isolation. They require continuous insights, shared ownership, and the ability to turn data into meaningful action. That's exactly the challenge we set out to solve when building Eletive. Our ambition is always have been to help organizations create workplaces where people thrive and organizations perform by turning employee insights into actionable intelligence for leaders, managers, and employees alike. So, thank you for joining me in this session. If any of these topics resonates with the challenges you're facing in your organization, I encourage you to visit our virtual booth or connect with our team during the event as well. And with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers ahead. And now is also a time for questions, if you have any.
Yes, we have.
So let me just see if I can get some questions. So looking at your data, are there any specific leadership behaviors that correlate with high-low employee engagement? Yes, there is. So if you're looking at leadership behaviors, transparency is a very important part, but it appears when you're, of course, setting goals, if you're transparent, if they're realistic, if you have the right expectations on employees, that we also see have a really high correlation. And of course, trust is a really important factor if you want to build high engagement and between the manager and leader and the employee. See if we have any other questions. Since you're a CEO, is there anything you and maybe other CEOs would like to see more of from HR in 2026? Yes, of course. I think there's a key point we also discussed before is that we did take big steps in this during the last years, but I think it's even more important right now in 2026 to also connect, show how HR is contributing to reaching the business KPIs. For example, connecting engagement, performance data to other business KPIs such as sales top line or EBITDA or just annual performance. So I think that's a really important part going forward is continue to show the value that HR and people leaders are bringing to the company. See if there are other questions. From where I can find the percentage challenges is one slide.
There is a resource library.
Yeah, so we will have a resource library after as well. You can see the full report that we announced today as well. So do you have any insights on how employee engagement drivers might differ across generations? Yes, so we're doing analysis on this on a continuous basis. And when you look at, for example, engagement data, it's really important to understand that this is on a group level. On an individual level, there's different factors that matters, more or less in different for different individuals. It could be a generation thing, but it could also be a personnel thing, or it could also be in the sector you work or similar. So we tend to not weight too much on the individual level, where we look at the big sets of data, because on a group level, engagement and how we drive engagement is pretty much the same at the core of how employees work. And it doesn't matter if you're in Sweden or if you're on the other side of the world. At the very core of how people experience engagement is pretty much the same, actually. We do value having great colleagues. We do value having a great leader. Meaningfulness participation is important. Learning and development and all those things. And that's also true for the younger generations. So I don't see any other questions. With the help of AI in decisions, what do you see ahead? So AI is used by most employees and leaders out there today. It's really good to be guided by AI in some cases. What we see ahead is, of course, this allows you also to get big data sets, analyze that in a really smart and efficient way, and also give guidance and a direction going forward. But as I mentioned before as well, there's bigger expectations this year that you also act. The analysis phase is an important part because without that you can't act, but you cannot stay in the analysis phase. So acting and driving meaningfulness action is really important going forward. So last question, what's your main takeaway from the report? Yeah, so it's one part, of course, that we need to act. We need to show that we're taking action. Another part is that we also see that all the things you do as a HR leader will be much easier if you can also prove the value from business KPIs. If you can, for example, at Eletive, we use engagement and performance data, and we correlate that with business data in what drives sales, what drives NPS, correlation that you do. So that's a key thing, that you continuously take the data that you have, correlate it, and if you can put AI on the top, or get the power of AI to help you take decisions and to act on those metrics in a better way, I think that will be a big success going forward. Good. I think that was everything for today. Have an amazing day. Hope you enjoy the rest of the summit, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.